Letzi then took another scroll out of his rope. Now let's back up. I want you to read this. One Inyekova read. Arai Lib had Abraham. Letzi interrupted him. No, right here. As he pointed to a section of the scroll, One Inyekova read. During the relocation of the natives off the land during the Civil War, White Bear took and hid his son to a small town in Louisiana called Kamak and changed his name to William Wilson. William had Ben, Ben had Caesar, and Caesar had Jake. Knowing his family's richness, Jake married Lydia, and they had a daughter and named her Eagle Child or Behitha in the native tongue. But her government name was Catherine Wilson, and she married Albert Bolin, and Albert had Willie, Willie had Larry. Letzi continued to go through the list as Wanyanyekevu stood there like a statue in disbelief as he just realized his bloodline. He knew the name but couldn't trace her roots back because most of his lineage speaks about the men and not so much the women. Wanyanyekevu handed Letzi the scroll. Letzi smiled and gave the scroll back to Wanyanyekevu. This is yours to keep. Plus, you need to memorize it. Wanyanyekevu sat down and started memorizing his entire family tree. 3 hours had passed, and Wanyanyekevu was still engulfed in the scroll. Letzi called out to him. Wanyanyekevu! As Wanyanyekevu looked up, he saw Letzi waving for him to come to him. Wanyanyekevu walked up. Letzi said to him. Alsatia is your next stop, then to Sondheimer. Please walk with me. Wanyanyekevu began to speak, but Letzi interrupted him. Your things will be there when we get there. Nshika and I have found favor in you to show you the things you have seen, but there is much more you shall see, and do before your journey is over. Wanyanyekevu and Letzi walked for a few minutes and headed down Par Road 1423 to where he looked up and saw a sign that read, Hollybrook Crevasse. A small lake where Letzi took a seat on the ground near the lake. Tonight and tomorrow, you can rest and reflect on the things you have seen and heard thus far. Letzi handed him his pen and notepad. I figured you would need these, said Letzi as he disappeared. Wanyanyekevu sat there motionless as he thought about his people and all they had been through, how Sabaoth had not forsaken them because of their sins. He could hear his grandfather's voice telling him about the days of old, the days of great pain, and the suffering he and his ancestors had gone through in a time where Sabaoth was neither praised nor worshipped. He pictured that time, and a tear fell from his eyes as he grabbed his pen and began to write. This land? I woke up this morning, looked in the mirror, couldn't believe what I saw. So I looked again. I saw that I was black, anguished is what I felt, living in this land. Paying the bills while I'm worrying if I will have a job tomorrow. Brothers are dying left and right. What's so funny they're killing themselves? This is why I'm filled with sorrow in this land. You say it's not my color, no, not my skin. What is it then? The news says. A black man was selling drugs on the streets. Then they said, a lady was robbed last night by a man wearing jeans. What was the color of that man? They don't bother to tell, in this land. My sister gets raped, yes, my next of kin. Nothing is said because of the color of her skin. A brother does the same, before you know it, he's dead or in chains. All the silly games they play, only in this land. 400 years in this land. Oppressed, depressed, and stressed. What a mess. I've done all that I can to live in peace and harmony with the man. In this land?